want to be as efficient and as quick as possible. These first pass key poses, force yourselves, especially when you're starting out, it should take you about 20 minutes. If it's taking longer than that, your workflow is probably not helping you. You're probably fiddling around with things that are too detailed, too nuanced, or you don't have a clear plan. Now, if I have a plan, if I can see what exactly it is I am going to do, it goes very quick. And I'm going to show you. It's going to take me 10 minutes to do this pose. So let's see where we are, 137. So at 147, I will have a first pass key pose. So I'm going to grab my root here. Now, you can't see it, but I've got over here, I've got my shot cam. So I'm looking at that. I'm going to take that root and I'm going to move it into position. And a little trick I use with advanced skeleton that's kind of handy is I'm going to grab my picker here and I'm going to take the character's feet and I'm going to just say anim switch FKIK. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead, reset this back to 0 like this. I'm going to go ahead and switch those feet to FK rather. Switch FKIK, grab this one, anim, switch FKIK like this. So that when I grab the root of the character and rotate it, those legs go with. Now I can switch them back to IK later, and I am going to do that. So let's see, I'm just sort of looking at where the root of the character is relative in frame. I think I'm going to end up zooming in a bit. I'm going to move my reference over here. Yeah, that looks good. Thinking about the angle. Now I'm not using this control here because it does the same thing as that blue control. So I want to keep this one. Now, in this character's case, you can see the artists that rigged the character, they locked down the translation and hid it because they didn't want that duplicate control. Okay, so what's next? Who can tell me what I should be posing on next? I've moved the root. I'm happy with it. The angle, the position, looking at his hips. What should I move next? Any thoughts? I've only got 10 minutes. Somebody give me an answer. Share it in the legs. Yeah, let's go with it. So I'm going to go grab those feet and I'm back to switch FKIK. And because they're in FK, the IK control snaps to where it is. So I'm going to anim, switch FKIK. And this is where some of those tool sets and workflows are going to really speed things up. So the first foot, like this, we'll tan down like that, get it in, looking at the angle of the thigh, like this is sort of like that. And this foot here, like this. Crossing it over. It's a little more open though. Now, some of it, she's got thicker thighs than Jeff Bridges. So I'm going to have to adapt some of what I'm doing to get the spirit of the pose. Let's see, now where's my pull vector there? This is where a picker really helps because I don't have to go hunting around for that pull vector. I can just click on the picker and find it. There we go. And let's see. Grab the pull vector and the foot together and shift it down the leg like that. Because I'm looking at the silhouette here, trying to create that same kind of silhouette there. Because you can see how his foot is sort of, it's at a right angle there, but the shin sort of extends out. Okay, good enough. What's next?
The back.
Yep. And again, in the eye for efficiency, I'm going to grab all 3 FK controls together. So I'm going to grab this one here, and this one here, all 3 of them together, because truthfully, that's how we operate as well. We don't individually rotate vertebrae in our spine. We sort of just move them all together to get these broad curving shapes. I'll refine them afterwards, but I'm going to just take them as an initial shape. Let's see here. I don't like the line in the lumbar. I want to get more of that sagging lumbar that Jeff Bridges' characters have. So I'm going to take this lower control here and rock it back and get more of the bend here like that. So you can see that line of action through the spine is sort of cleaner. Try not to get too much of a pinch here. Now, one of the other things I sometimes like to do is I'll actually turn off the character controls and use the picker. So when I click here, I know which control I have without actually having to see it. And it can allow me to pay attention to things like the overall shape of the character. Again, I'm watching my silhouette over here. Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, I like that. What's next? Any thoughts?
Arms.
Arms. What part of the arm?
Shoulders, I'd think.
Yeah, spot on. Shoulders. Devin, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with the shoulders.
Yeah, okay. I gotta grab this shoulder here, pull that up, because you can see how his arm is sort of pulled up on the couch like that. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna pull that arm back, grab this arm, roll it forward like that, wrist down like that, just working my way down the body like that, rotate. And you can see I'm shifting my view to where it's most advantageous to rotate arm like that. And then what's he doing with his other? Oh, it's just across the body. So the shoulder, gonna rotate it forward and down like that. Upper arm down like that to the elbow is sort of close to the leg like that. Making sure those forearms, I only rotate on rotate Z, because that's how we function. That bend there, that's a hinge joint like that. We can't take our elbow and bend it that way without breaking our arm. We actually do that by rotating our upper arm. So if I want to shift where that forearm is lying, I got to rotate the upper arm like this, get it across. And so she's doing a thing where his hand is across his hip again, trying to adapt just based on where that is. Now I could do this with the IK, but to be honest, I really like working with FK. I feel like I get better curves, better shapes. It makes me think of the mechanics of what I'm doing. Okay, now what?
Neck.
Okay, now same as the spine, I grab the head and the neck together. I find if you pose them separately, you tend to get these really broken kind of shapes. And so if I want the head turning like that, there we go. And I'm not just going to reproduce what I'm seeing here with Jeff Bridges' character. I'm going to go ahead and exaggerate that stuff. So let me pull this shoulder back a little bit like that. Head and neck. Because he's really doing this like chin up kind of thing. I'm going to exaggerate that swagger. There we go. There we go. Yeah. It's a good start. Remember, it's just a first pass key pose. What's next?
Can we do the eyes?
Yeah, spot on. Why eyes? Why not fingers?
Because people are going to notice that expression first.
Yeah. So when I talk about moving the thing that has the biggest impact, it's not just about what moves the character the most, it's what moves the audience the most. And eyes, where a character is looking, is huge. It has a big impact on how we perceive what the character's thinking, what they're paying attention to. It's really important stuff. Now, I'm a big fan of using the sort of the rotation-based eyes, but for expedience, I'm just going to go ahead and rotate that like this. Now I rotate thinking about the one eye first, and then I offset the other eye to get that. Now this is where I really need this view to see, okay, what does the eye line look to my audience? So I'm gonna hit 6 here like that. And she looks a little insanely furious, so I might have to dial that back. The head's leaning a little too far back. She looks like she's about to murder somebody. I gotta say, this is awesome. There we go. So you can see I'm pulling them out so that the pupils are visible. And then what is next? So I'm gonna dial back the head and neck a teensy bit here because it's a little too much. There we go. There we go. That's better. That's better. And this is the view I have here. I've sort of rotated my camera to something similar to what my shot camera is right now. There we go. What's next? Fingers or something else?
I would think it'd be the eyebrows, right? Keep working on the expression.
Yeah, I was going to go for eyelids, then brows. And fingers, I don't bother with unless I've got time, but I've only got 1 minute because I've been doing lots of pausing here. So yeah, I'm going to grab those lids next. Let's see here. I'm going to use just the blink attribute as a starting point, grab those. And I just want to get that half lidded kind of, thing that he's got going on there. Now there's tons of stuff that I would be doing with the lids later on. This blink is not exactly what I want, but I want the idea. I just want to convey the notion and then move on to the next pose, the next key pose, the next breakdown. Now for a golden pose, those storytelling poses, I would lavish a lot more time on it, but as a proof of concept, as an idea, this is what I got. And what do we got? 147. Boom. Okay. The more you practice this, the more you practice those 10-minute poses. And here's my character. The dude abides, or the dudette in this case. Okay. So it's pretty simple stuff. The things that can really make a difference is, number one, commit to the process. It's hardest when you feel pressed for time. When you feel like you don't have enough time to do this, that's when you stop planning. That's when you skimp on planning. That's when you don't analyze stuff, things like that. But I promise you, the less time you have, the more important it is to plan, so that when you get into Maya, you're not sitting there thinking, well, what am I going for? What do I really want? I didn't have to think about that. I just had to look at what my reference was, what my plan was, and then execute on that plan. Now, when we get back, I'm going to take this and I'm going to do a second pass key pose next to it. So I'll key everything on the character right here. Then I'll step one frame over and I'll do a second pass version so that I can step back and forth and say, what I had before, do I like what I have now better? And that's my normal working process, because I want to preserve what I had before, just in case I make some changes. And I'm like, nah, I feel like I'm drifting away from what my plan was, or it's not quite capturing what I'm after. And you'll find that working this way, where you do a first pass of all your poses and breakdowns, and then you come back and you do a second pass, is awesome, because 9 times out of 10, some of those key poses or breakdowns, you're going to realize it's not actually what I want, or you're going to show them the director. The director's going to look at it and say, no, I had something different in mind. And so you have to immediately toss out all that work. Now, if you only spent 10 minutes per pose, all right, it's not a big deal. It's not a ton of work. You can reproduce that. If you've lavished a half an hour on a pose before you ever even show it to somebody, and the director, she doesn't like it, oh man, that's a lot of wasted time that you're not going to get back. And so this is why this kind of workflow, this kind of process is so important. Now, as I've been working along, as I said, I've been thinking about the line of action, those internal forces through the character, thinking about that curve. If you imagine a curve through here, and if I grab my grease pencil and just draw that line there like that, so that line of action, that internal force through the character, and then to some extent this line here, that line there, I'm thinking about that. I am thinking about the silhouette. Sort of, if I look at the character as an outline, does that still read clearly? So by keeping this empty space here, it helps separate it out. This triangular shape here helps separate the head and the neck. This little bit of the cheek right here helps show the angle that the character's looking at. All of these little clues are important from the silhouette. I'm thinking about rhythm. So rhythm is a little harder to understand, but it's basically that idea that you'll have long flowing lines and sort of smaller broken ones. You'll have straight lines and curving lines, contrasting on opposite sides of the character. I'm thinking of asymmetry, that I don't want anything too twinny. Now, this pose by its plan was pretty asymmetric, but even to the point of the angle and the tilt, that rhythm through the body, the angle of the hips, the shoulders, the head, like that I have this flow through, contrasting shapes. This is all stuff that I'm thinking about, and I'm never thinking about them all at once. I will be doing stuff where I'm looking to pose, and all I'm thinking about is line of action. And then maybe I'll have a look at just structure, where I'm like, wait, have I gotten too far? Structure, especially in 3D rigs, you tend to start to break it in the head and neck when you push them too far, and suddenly it looks like, I think I broke something. Or you rotate the forearm on the wrong axis and suddenly the skinning doesn't look right. We need to be mindful of that. But I'll do a pass where I'm just thinking about just that. And so you want to do the same thing. You want to be thinking about those sub principles of posing. And there are other sub principles, but these are sort of the dominant ones. The three for me that I think about a lot: line of action, silhouette, balance, structure. That comes sort of after, because it's sort of like when they say you do rough draft writing, you don't do spell checking. You just want to get the ideas out there down on paper. Same with posing. Don't worry too much about structure initially. You can bring that back together. And then asymmetry, flow lines, things like that. Those are finer sort of second pass key pose things that I start to think about. Those flow lines are those external lines that are created in the pose. And it's about how we guide our audience eyes. So I might think about, oh, is there a way that I could get this arm down just a little bit more over the couch like this to guide the audience eye up to her face? Is there a way I could angle the head, tilt the neck to bring the chin just a little bit closer to the chest so her eyes are right there, so that that flow line guides us right up to the expression? All of that stuff I'm trying to think about just one thing at a time. Okay, so on the break, I was looking at my pose and I was writing down just a few notes of what I would do in the second pass. And this is sort of how I do my polishing notes. Is I just sort of write them. Now, sometimes I'll just write them as stream of consciousness. I try and think, okay, well, what's the biggest thing that I would do first? And then what's the next thing I would do? Although as I was going along, I sort of went, oh, you know what, this arm is actually way off. I'd actually do that sooner. So I might change the numbering, but I try and order them in the order that I would do them, because too often, I got to admit, you have notes, you have things that you would revise on an animation, and it's you don't always get to it. So you have to make those polishing notes in the order that you need to do them, so that the biggest ones get sorted first. The right arm, I wanted to extend it and then just do a pass on brows and lids to sort of put it all together. So that's my plan over 10 minutes. We'll see how much of it I can do, because I use the same process as I do with my first pass key poses, where I'm gonna work from the things that have the biggest impact to the things that have the smallest impact, and I'm only giving myself 10 minutes to do that second pass. Because if I imagine this was animation, that I had a whole bunch of keys and breakdowns that I had to do this with, well, in order to get a more refined version of it to show for progress, I really want to make sure I kind of get everything, sort of move it all up together. If I have 2 or 3 really awesome key poses and the rest is still what I showed before, it doesn't tell where I'm going with this. And so it makes it difficult for a director to kind of say, yes, this is the right direction, or no, adjust what you're doing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn on my curves here. Now, again, I've got my shot cam here that I'm going to be referring to, although in this case, I had it in silhouette mode. I'm going to go ahead and set it to shaded mode so that I can actually see the topology of the character, because I'm looking at face and stuff like that now. So let's see here, spine. That's where I wanted to open it out. So I'm going to grab these 2 first controls here, and I'm going to rotate the character just a bit more like that. I'm not worrying too much about the arms. And then let's see, I wanted to let's tilt the root down a little bit more and roll it open just a little bit more, and tilt this. I want that dropping in, sort of more sag like this. You'll notice that I use this rotate from camera view a lot. So I don't grab like the Z axis, the Y axis, the X axis. I'm actually grabbing this outside ring that basically says rotate what I've got perpendicular to my view. And so it's doing a little bit of each axis. And that's really important. Although I suddenly realized I started making these adjustments. I'm going to undo them for a second, and I'll show you why. Because I forgot to key my first pass pose. Okay, so there's my first pass pose. So I'm going to just click all, S to key. I'm going to step 1 frame over. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to be able to compare what I'm doing, what I've revised. Is it better? And so I need to hang on to that other pose. Now, if I like it and I'm like, yes, absolutely, this is the way to go, what I end up doing is I take that pose at frame 2, I middle mouse drag and S to key over top of the pose at frame 1. Okay, so let me go back again. So let's see, I was rolling the hips back and open like that. Grab this guy here, see. Oh yeah, so I wanted that curve to be preserved. Let's see, trying to get sort of that pinching in the bosom more rounded out there. It's tricky. Ah, man, it's tricky. Let's see, like that, and then grab these 3 here, open the character more up. So I'm actually rotating from my shot view. You can't see it. I'm doing this kind of a thing. And if I'm not rotating on this camera view axis, I'm never grabbing individual axes like this. I always just click in the middle of that super controller and sort of rotate all axes together. And that helps keep me posing in a more organic way. And that's really important. Okay, so looking at it, the chest is more open. Yeah, can I get any more out of that spine? I think that's as far as I can get it right now. Let's see. So I'm grabbing my shot view here and I'm just rotating like that. And then grab that chest here and rotating like that. There we go. Okay. Okay, that's got more of that curve shape that I want. Okay. What was the next thing that I wanted? Oh, right. I thought I looked at the arm, but realized I should have been thinking about that sooner. So I'm gonna resolve the arm next. That was the one where I wanted it more extended like this. Let's see. Wrist, rotate this wrist out like that. And I'm checking structure on the wrist, you know, making sure that it looks comfortable. You know, when you get too much of a bend like that or too much like that, it starts to look uncomfortable. I want to feel like that character. There we go. Looking for my shot cam view. That's starting to get a bit closer to what I want. Arm like that. Yeah, there. That's better. That's better. And by rotating the chest, so I said face to cam. Well, her face is already much more to cam just by virtue of the fact that I was rotating the spine. But I'm going to do just a little adjustment here. Looking at Jeff. And again, I'm doing this. I mean, I can orbit my working cam more to this kind of view, like to mimic what my shot cam's doing. Do like this. I think I'm going to rotate the neck individually. Let's see, is that what I want? Yeah. Let me see, and I'm going to rotate that neck back a little bit, head forward a little bit like that. There we go. It's tricky. It's starting to, her neck's starting to look a little redonkulously long. Out of curiosity. Curious to see. Yeah, there we go. I can translate that neck down. It starts to look too stretched. Now, ordinarily, these FK controls, you don't want to translate much. But yeah, that's better. That's better. Way more appealing. Way more appealing. Okay. Tilt that head back just a teensy bit. There we go. Now you'll notice that the changes that I'm making are much softer, much smaller ranges. The first pose, obviously, I'm moving everything all over the place. Second pass, smaller tweaks, you know, still some big ranges like on the arm, the spine, things like that. Each successive pass, ideally, you're circling in, you're getting closer and closer to what your objective is, so that you're not sort of reinventing the wheel, but the time remains the same. I give myself 10 minutes for each pose. Now let's see, face cam mouth. Now it's funny, and this is why that polishing list was so important, because I was immediately looking at the shoulder thinking, oh, you know what, I want to fix that line right there, but that's not part of my plan. So I'm not going to do it. I am going to make a note over here, pen here, shoulders. And let's see, flow line. So that idea of the line flowing across the shoulders, I'm going to make a note for third pass, but I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to stick to my plan, because this way, much faster and much more efficient. And so let's see, make sure my arm hasn't drifted off the lap too much. I just got to fix what I'd done there, get that elbow back in contact. Now you can set the space of the character so that it doesn't inherit rotations when you rotate the spine. But I find it's just sort of easier to counter rotate whatever's happening in the arm to sort of put it back where it's supposed to be. There we go. Okay, and mouth is my next thing. So I'm going to pull up my facial control GUI, and the dude, he sort of has his mouth slightly open. So I'm going to grab that jaw here. Oh, it's constrained. A sec. Oh, interesting. Okay, so this character has a custom jaw control. Okay, all right, all right. So I'm going to open that jaw, looking at the dude. I'm going to sort of support that angle of the head, drop to the side like that. Yeah, just like that. Looking at my shot cam here, just looking at how much that mouth is open, maybe not that much. There we go. And then I'm going to grab those mouth corners there. Just give it a little bit of a smile. Like that. Widen it out. Yeah, there we go. And maybe grab the one corner and just pull it up a little bit higher than the other. Let's see here. Show NURBS curve. She's got some on-face controllers as well that are actually handy. So I might actually eschew using the GUI controls here. I'm going to turn those off. And instead, I'm going to do my manipulation from these controls. Because there's two sets of controls that do the same thing, I don't want to sort of be controlling from both of them. So I'm going to use these on-face controls that are there, because I find they tend to be a little more intuitive anyways. There we go. Just a slight smile. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it because, again, I've got a limited amount of time here. Fingers was the next thing. I just want to take a moment. And this is where the shot cam, having it handy, is really important. I was about to start futzing around with the pinky. Can't even see it. So not much point, Dave. Let's just grab that index finger, pull it up so that the line of the finger is better. And then looking at my reference there, yeah, his thumb is a little tighter. I'm going to grab the base of that thumb, pull it in like that, and just get that tip rolling out just a little bit more relaxed like that. And then what was it I doing with the other hand? The thumb is a little tighter in. So again, I'm just going to grab the base of the thumb, pull it in like that, grab that end, roll it out like that, and then this finger sort of curves in like that. And then now you can control the fingers on this character with these arcs, these yellow arcs. I tend not to do it because I like to have really granular control. I want to have a really deliberate ability to position each part of the finger. It is important to note, just like the forearms, these joints, they only rotate on one axis. The base of the finger, this guy here, this is the one that you can sort of rotate and twist and do all sorts of things with. But I still want to make sure I'm keeping it within a reasonable range that a human being can move. I don't want to break the structure of the character. I'm going to take that sort of dainty pinky thing that he's doing and exaggerate that. So I'm going to take this finger here, pull it in like that, but leave that pinky out just because it looks so effete and delicate and really funny. And I think it's going to work really nicely for this character. Give her a softer look. Let's see here. I'm going to pull that wrist down like that and then pull the thumb out like that. There we go. There we go. That's getting closer. Yeah. And then extend arms. Brows was the last thing that I wanted to approach. So the brows is simple. I just wanted to do something where I'm kind of lifting this side here like that. And then this side here, pulling down like, oh no, that's not the control I want. Is it buried? Where is it? Oh, it is. Okay, that is the one I want. Okay, 5. Is it a rotate based thing? There we go. That's better. That's better. Pull this one up a little bit and there we go. Just giving a little bit of swagger. There we go. There. And that is my plan. I'm going to just make a note, bend right arm. That's, again, another note for my next pass. So here is my revised pose. I just need to adjust my eye line because by rotating the head, my eye line is now not where it was originally. And so I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go, here's the first pose. New pose is here. So let's do one of these. And then you like that. There we go. There we go. And so there is my second pass pose. So there's what I had before, what I had after, before, after, before, after. Now, hopefully, looking at this, I'm like, yeah, that looks more relaxed, more sort of confident, at ease. Yeah. Yeah, this dudette definitely abides.